Hey everyone, it's Connor from Koyfin here, and welcome to this custom dashboard masterclass. Custom dashboards are a really powerful tool inside of Koyfin, and they blend together the use of watch lists and chart templates to allow you to create your own view. Many of you will know about our market dashboards, which we provide to all users to give people inspiration and also insight into high-level things such as world equity indices, factors, global yields, IPO calendars, currency movements, commodities, credit spreads. There's a lot of stuff in here, and we just kind of provide you those as templates. And then custom dashboards, or my dashboards, as the nomenclature is in the terminal, allows you to build unique views, blending together a bunch of different instruments inside of Koyfin. Today, I want to break down how you can do that. And this is going to be a useful video for new users of Koyfin who have not experienced my dashboards before, experienced users of Koyfin who want to learn some tips and tricks for dashboards, and everything in between. Before we start, I'll just go over a few examples of some custom dashboards to kind of get you up to speed. So in creating a custom dashboard, you have a few templates here that we give you, but stripping it back to basics, we'll pick a blank dashboard here. In this video, we're going to go over how we can create some from scratch, but right now I'm just going to run through a few examples. So you have components in here, and you can have more than 4, but we just show you 4 initially. And you can add watch lists, charts, either historical performance or intraday focused. You also get news tabs in here and scatter plots. So of course, if you want to add a watch list, you need to have a watch list already, and we're going to go through the process of creating those. But initially, someone might add a watch list in here. They might throw in a news feed that has news coming through for all of these companies. And then they might go ahead and add a chart template in here for performance. Let's click Google. And now we can see a price chart in there, historical graph. They might want to put in a performance graph here as well, so they can see the performance. And then they might also want an intraday as well. So that's kind of the crux of what these are. And you also get market scatters in there as well, which is a really great tool like this. And we'll run for a few examples of something a bit more robust. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. You'll see here we have an ETF view, which is a big list of ETFs in a watch list. We're actually going to recreate this one from scratch. Here you can see that we have the assets under management and the cumulative flows, as well as the monthly, quarterly, and weekly flows for these securities. And you can kind of play around and interact with these charts as well while they're in the dashboard. Then we also have the forward PE versus the mean, and then the high and the low over a period of time. So we're going to recreate this one, and we'll show you how to do that, blending in watch lists and chart templates. This one is more of a portfolio-centric view. So you can see up here, I have a watch list. Down here, I have some EPS data, some cash conversion cycles, some PE versus mean, some revenue versus gross profit, and some share purchase history. And every time I click through one of these, it's going to change the view for everything. You'll see up here, we've already seen this PE versus mean. The beauty of chart templates is that when you create them once, you can then use them throughout the platform and get more leverage out of them. This one is just a very simple portfolio return dashboard. We have our portfolio up here, we have a news feed here, and every time I untick or tick one of these items, it's going to add or remove it from this chart. In a similar fashion, this inflation dashboard has headline inflation, also month-over-month and core inflation for a number of different global countries here. And every time I untick one of those, it's going to allow me to compare, contrast different inflation rates across the world. If you're technically inclined, you might want something set up with an intraday chart, an oscillator, stochastic, RSI, some moving averages, that kind of thing. You can set up a chart template with your preferred view. And again, every time you flick through these companies in your watch list, you're going to have that view change. This is more of an earnings-centric dashboard. So again, we have companies, and every time I click on one, it's going to give me the news. And it's going to give me the sales and EPS data for every quarter. So if I hover over here, I can see the reported date, the estimate, the actual, the surprise, the miss. And we can change that and interact with that in this chart too. Here is a ratings and price target dashboard. And we're going to go over how to create this one in the video too. So every time I flick through here, if I jump from Apple to Mastercard, I can see the price target, the high, the low, and also the difference between the average price target and the current price and how that changes over time. Again, you can change the time period and interact with that. But here on the right, I have average analyst ratings and how they change over time, as well as the breakdown of the number of buys, strong buys, hold, sell, and strong sells. So like I said, the focus of this video is going to be how you can build these kinds of things from scratch. We're going to look at watch lists and how to build those. We're going to look at charting and chart templates. And then we're going to conclude with wrapping that all together and building some custom templates, as well as sprinkling in a few handy tips and tricks. So what I'm going to do now is transfer over to a blank Koyfin. It doesn't have any of my personal charts saved. Everything is empty from dashboards to watch this, just so we can show you how you can build this purely from scratch. The first thing we're going to do is recreate that analyst ratings and price target dashboard that we just showed you, this one here, from scratch with the watch list and everything. So let's jump over here. I'm going to go to watch list first. So because we're borrowing from watch list and charts, you have to set those up. But the beauty of these things is when you've spent the time to create those views that you like seeing, you can then leverage them and you don't have to repeat them. You simply have to edit them. So if you're a new user in Koyfin, you have a sample watch list here, which is great, but we're going to go ahead and create a new one, and we're going to call it test watch list so that we know where to find it. And we're going to give you a blank watch list, and you have a bunch of column headers here as well. And we're just going to import some securities for the speed of time. And then there we go, all of our securities in here. You can see all the column headers up here. These are just default. The first thing you might want to do in a watch list is create a view. So we just give you a template view. But if I want to create that analyst ratings and price target view, go ahead and do that now. So I've called my view analyst ratings. We'll go ahead and create that, and it's just going to be blank. So if we want an exact replica of the one that I showed you initially, there's going to be a few things that we can do. So in the watch list, go up to the column picker here. We can search for these in the search box, but I want to show you where they are. So analyst estimates here is where we want to be, and we'll go to the ratings tab here. So we have a few options in here. We can see the average analyst rating. We can also see the number of strong buys, holds, sells broken out. And then we can also see the no opinions as well. For the purpose of this, we're just going to select all of these ones. And then when we exit this page, they're all going to be in there. I also had some information on price targets as well. So we're going to go back into the column picker. We're going to go to analyst estimates, and we're going to go to price target. And the data that we want here is the current price target, which will be here. So I'm going to press current. And I also want to see what the price targets look like a few periods ago. So we're going to pick 1 month, 6 months, and then 1 year ago as well. And just before we finish up, we want the price target versus the stock price, and we want the average range. So I'm going to click away from this now, and it looks like we're almost ready to go. We don't need this 1-day price change, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. There's one column in here that we had in the original that we don't have in this one, and that was number of ratings. So the summation of all the different ratings from buy to sell, that's something we don't have natively in Koyfin. We might someday, but my workaround is creating a custom column and formula. So I'm going to go into custom columns and formulas, click formula, and we're going to call that number of ratings. And then all I'm going to be doing here is summing together all of the different parts of analyst estimates. So go back to ratings. I want to add all of these together. So now that I've got those 5 data series, all I'm going to do is just say A plus B plus C plus D plus E. And we're going to display that as a number. And then when we've created the custom formula, we can go ahead and select that. And now we'll calculate the number of ratings. So we have all the data now, and this looks great. And I'm just going to reposition some of this stuff so that I can see it better. One tip I'm going to show you here as well, which is really useful, is that you can see I've renamed some of the column headers here. So they used to say number of strong buy ratings. If you want to reduce the amount of space that takes up and you want to rename it, all you have to do is right click, come up here, and then just type in the name that you want and hit save. And now you've got that. And you can also right click at any time to see the original data series. So we built this view. First and most importantly, we're going to be able to now use this in a dashboard. Another really interesting feature as well, if I ever go ahead and create a new watch list, for example, and I don't have any views, I can now, and let's add a ticker first. So we'll add Coca-Cola, we'll add Tesla, Nvidia, a few companies. I don't want to have to recreate that view from scratch. So what I can do here is I can go new view in this new watch list, and I can actually import views. So from the test watch list there, we created that analyst ratings view. we can go ahead and import that. So now I can use it in all of my watch lists, which is fantastic. So we have the first part of our equation to build that dashboard. We have the watch list. Now we're going to go ahead over to the charting tool and we're going to build some templates. So we're filtered on Coca-Cola here, and for me personally, my personal style of charting, there's a few things in here that I don't like. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into settings, and I'm going to change the grid display to show no grid lines because I don't like that personally. And everything else looks good for now, and we can change these as they come along. So because we want analyst ratings, I'm going to delete these data series from the chart for now, and I'm going to go into the data series picker and go back to analyst estimates. We're going to go to ratings, and I'm going to add in that average analyst rating 1 to 5 years, 1 to 5, sorry. And now we can see that, and I can pull it up over time series. I'm going to tweak the information just a little bit. I'm going to press this little gear icon, go to the chart styling. I want to show this as an area chart, and I also want to change the color slightly, and I want to make the lines surrounding the data thicker. So I'm going to click normal. You can have it thick if you want. I will just stick with normal for now. The next thing we want to add is the number of buys, sells, and holds. So I'm going to go back into the data series picker. I'm going to go to analyst estimates, go to ratings, and I'm going to add all of these data series in the chart as well. So you can see initially that when we add those, they're going to show up as separate panels. We actually want these all to be in the same panel. So what I'm going to do is go to the legend. There's a little button here, which allows you to pop that up into the up above legend or pop something down. Doesn't matter which way you do it. I'm going to go ahead and add all these into the same panel just for a moment. So now we have all of that data displayed in the panel. There's a few other things I want to do here. So these legends are quite messy. We already know that the type of way that we're going to see this template is it's always going to be filtered on one company. So I don't necessarily need these legends here. So I'm going to go back into settings and I'm going to remove that here. And then we're just going to make some slight aesthetic adjustments. So I'm going to make the buys green and I'm going to make the sells red. So when you're happy with your view, you want to save this as a template because you don't want to have to recreate this view every time you jump in the charting tool or every time that you go into a dashboard. So we're going to go up here on the save button and we're going to save this as analyst ratings. And we'll click save. So now every time I want to view this, I can click on this button here and flick through my templates, or I can also just go to the list of templates here on the left-hand side. So if you remember from the original watch list, we're about 2/3 of the way there. This is the watch list that we needed. We've created that. This is the analyst ratings chart template that we needed. We've created that. I'm going to show you a crafty hack to just quickly automate this process of creating this price target chart. So at any point in Koyfin, if you're hanging around some of the snapshots or the charts that we show you, like this one in earnings history, for example, you might notice a little button up here, which is a arrow pointing up towards the right. If you ever click those buttons, it's going to allow you to just drag that entire template into a chart tool, and you can save those as templates. So what I'm going to do here for the price targets is go to analyst estimates. We have a dedicated snapshot for price targets, and we have that chart set up. I'm going to put that on a 3-year time horizon, and all I'm going to do is just click this button here, and now I already have that ready made. So I can go ahead and save this as a template and call it price targets. Hit save. That took seconds, and now we have everything we need to build the dashboard. So I'm going to go into dashboards here. We give you a sample dashboard. I don't need that, so I'm going to delete it. We're going to create one from scratch. So we're going to call this our ratings and price targets. We went ahead and selected a blank dashboard here, and the first thing that we'll need is a watch list table. So we'll click watch list and we'll add that component. You'll see that it's showing me the sample watch list. If you ever need to change the watch list that is being viewed, you click up here and you can choose from your list of watch lists. And I'm going to click the test watch list that we created earlier with the view for the analyst ratings and changes. You can see right here that it's not showing me that view. Very simply, all you have to do is go up here and you can select the view that you want to see. And now we have that in the dashboard. So we'll resize that just to take up this left-hand side column. You can add some more tickers to it as well if you want. The two things we need here are charts. So we're going to go historical graph template. We're going to squish that here. So we'll click on Google so that we can see something, and we'll add another chart template here as well, identical. Now we have two charts. We have our watch list nicely set up. All we need to do now is add our templates. So I'm going to go up here to this box where it says historical price. These are the default chart templates we give you, so we can show you performance as well. But if you want to use one of the templates that you created, like analyst ratings or price targets, you can select them from this box. So let's click price targets. And up here, we're going to go ahead and select analyst ratings. We'll change this to a 3-year and we'll change this to a 5-year. So there we have it. We have recreated that dashboard from scratch in a brand new Koyfin account. And we're going to go ahead and create a new one now to show you some other tools. So here's the original Koyfin account I was showing you, and this is the ETF dashboard. We're going to go ahead and recreate this one now as well. We've got 4 different chart templates in here, well, 5 really, and we have a whole new watch list to build. We'll try fly through this one a little bit quicker because we still have some other fun stuff to show you. So we'll go back to watch list. First of all, how do we get a big, massive list of watch lists? There is a hack to do this, and it's super simple. If we go to the screening tool here, we can create a screen, and we're going to go create new screen. We'll go to the ETF screener. We're just going to focus on US ETFs for the purpose of this. We'll just leave it very blank. We just want every single US ETF. We might want to add some filter criteria. Let's go assets under management. We don't want anything smaller than 500 million, not useful to us. So there we have 874 ETFs, and we'll call this our ETF screener. So we can create that screen. And the purpose of doing this is really that it just gives you a big, massive list of ETFs in the US, from fixed income to equity to strategy. And now that we've created that, we're going to go ahead and save it as a watch list. And we'll just jump over to the watch list tool now. So again, we have that default view in a watch list. We can import other views, but because these are ETFs, we might want to create something a little bit more specific in the column picker. So I'm going to go back into columns. I'm going to delete a bunch of these columns, and we have a range of asset-specific items in here for ETFs, like number of holdings, advisor, benchmark, creation fee, AUM. I'm going to go ahead and pick a few of these and build a watch list view, but you're more than welcome to build one that looks how you'd like to see it. So here's a pretty simple setup. We've just got some, basic data there. You can add some more of your own, like I said, but what we're going to do here is save this watch list view, and we're going to call it ETF view. Now we have the watch list, we need to go ahead and build all of the charts. So we're going to go into the graphing tool again, and we're going to pick an ETF just to kind of model all the templates from. And the first thing, the easiest, we had a forward PE with the mean. So we're going to take the PE ratio here, next 12 months, and we have that line item there. First thing I want to do really is change the thickness of the line, change the color. And we also want to add the mean. So how you would do that, in most data series, you're allowed to transform data, so you can change it from year-over-year growth or performance or drawdowns. And you also have statistical bands here as well. So what I want to show is the mean and maybe one standard deviation either side. You can also put highs and lows in here and medians if you want. And the last thing I'm going to do is just change the colors of these standard deviations so they stand out a little bit more. So very simply, that's our first template done. I can go ahead and save this as PE versus mean. We can save that, and we're going to use it later. The other views that we had related to weekly, quarterly, and monthly flows. So I'm going to go and delete this data series. You can go ahead into asset specific and pick out this data, or you can type it in. What we want to show here is fund flows periodic for ETFs. We had 3 templates, one set up for weekly, quarterly, and monthly. So we're going to go ahead and pick weekly here, and we display that as a bar chart, which is nice. Here's a little tip for you to get the color of your labels here to match the data. If we go back into the settings icon for this data series, you can see that up here we have the chart styling colors, and up here on the left we have the labeling color. So I want this to be green, so I'm going to click on this and make it green, and it just looks a little bit more uniform there. And we can also change the financial periods here as well. So this is our first template, very simple. We're going to go ahead and save this as weekly ETF flows. We're then going to repeat the process for monthly and quarterly and save those both as templates as well. And the last chart template we had was that one with AUM and the cumulative flows. So all I'm going to do is add assets under management here, and then I'm going to pick cumulative flows, and we're going to have those come up as 2 separate items. I'm going to do some minor aesthetic changes to the AUM. I'm going to change the color, make it thicker, turn it into an area chart. And the cumulative flows, I changed the color of the label, but this looks good to go. So we're going to save this as our final chart template, AUM for ETFs. So now we have everything ready to make a dashboard. So I'm going to go up to the dashboard settings. And we have the one that we prepared earlier, and every time we flick through that, it's going to change the view for us. And this time we're going to go ahead and create a new one, blank dashboard, but we'll call this our ETF. We'll just call it ETFs. So the first thing we need is a watch list. We'll add that component. We want to pick our watch list, which is our ETF screen results. And we already have that view saved in there because it's the only view we had in the watch list. The next thing we want to add is a bunch of charts. So I think we had 5 in there. So we've got one here. We'll take a historic graph chart in here, and then we're just going to add 3 more around here. So we have our 5 charts. All we need to do now is pick the templates. So we want the PE versus the mean. We want to pick the AUM for ETFs, and then we want to add the weekly, the monthly, and the quarterly flows as well. And then what happens is when we pick on our first ETF, all of these charts are going to magically populate, and that's great. You might want to do some tweaking. You might want to change the time ranges up here, which should auto save every time you come into the dashboard, like so, and you're good to go. So that's the basic structure of building a dashboard. There's a few more tips and tricks that I want to show you that will really help you, more advanced functionalities there. If we go back to my original dashboard here, the imagination that you can kind of muster up with chart templates is going to really just superpower these dashboards. You can see here that I have a cash conversion cycle, EPS, all this stuff. If you can build it in a chart template and you want to represent it, then you should do that first, bring it into a dashboard, and you have that kind of set for life. The next thing I want to show you, however, it relates to this macro dashboard that I have here. You can see it's a bit odd looking. And just to go over what we have in here, this is the credit card default rate in the US, and this is the change over time. This is the historic unemployment rate for a bunch of countries. Right now I have it set to UK and US. This is the US initial claims, the 4-week average, and then continuing claims over time. And this is just sectoral performance in the US broken out as well. You'll see here on the left-hand side, the columns look kind of messy. That's by design. So each of these chart templates are based on different watch lists. So in this watch list here, which is US initial claims, if I drag down this watch list, you can see that there's only 3 data points in this watch list, and it's the ones that are being represented. In this B chart here, and we'll describe what that means in just a moment, if I drag this down, you can see there's only 1 data point in here, and I've created a chart template that shows the data point itself, and then also the year-over-year change there as well. And then global unemployment, which is this chart see here, has a bunch of different countries and their unemployment rate. And then this last one here is just a watch list full of US sectors. So you can use multiple watch lists and have different things going on at once. So how do you do that? So if you remember in our original dashboard, we built this. All of these charts and watch lists have the letter A on them. If you click up here and do group selection, you can actually change which charts speak to which watch lists. So if I was to delete this, for example, and then add a different watch list in here, which is a sample watch list that Koyfin gives us, if I then go ahead and change this chart to communicate with B, it's only going to change depending on what I click on in here. Obviously, this is set up for ETF data, and these are not ETFs, so it won't correspond. But let's go back to this dashboard here. So you can see that each of these charts corresponds with each of these watch lists. So initial claims corresponds with the initial claims watch list. And I've set these all up in the watch list specifically for this dashboard. But you can also notice that all of these watch lists take up quite a bit of space. If you have a setup like this where you've created a watch list specifically for one chart and you don't ever intend on changing the data, there's something you can do to save space. And if you just drag these up here like this, you can see that it's just now a little box and it takes up a fraction of the space that it used to. And what it's allowed me to do is squish 4 watch lists that would usually take up a whole side panel into one little square. Super useful if you know that you're not going to be changing any of the constituents of the watch list for your charts. Now that I have a new component to add, I want to show you something else useful as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add a news feed in here. But because we don't have any companies in any of these watch lists, it's not going to suck in news. So if I want to see the news for my portfolio, but at the same time, I want to see all this macro data, there's a way that we can do that, and it's in the settings of the news tab. And that's shown here. If I click here, I can actually change the watch list that it pulls in news for. So macro data, I'm not interested in that. I want to go all the way up here to the S&P watch list that I have, which is just 500 or so companies from the S&P. I'll click that. And now we're going to load in the entire news feed for the S&P, so I can see that ticking away live during the day. And lastly, if at any point you want to change what type of news you have coming through, you can remove them here by clicking the drop-down arrow. You can just focus on press releases, filings, and premium news, for example, and then you can alter what's coming through the pipe. So that does it for this masterclass. I wanted to really just focus on the nuts and bolts of how you can go from point 0 to point 1 from scratch, basically building a watch list and a chart template, and how you would incorporate into those dashboards. We could spend the next 2, 3, 4 hours showing you different varieties of dashboards that you can create, but I wanted to just give you the tools to allow you to let your creativity run wild and build them for yourself. As always, if you do have any questions, please reach out to us in the comment section below. Happy to answer any of your questions. We're also over on Twitter at Koyfin Charts, or you can reach out to the Koyfin help desk. If you have any great ideas for custom dashboards, please let us know, and we'll try to include those in future videos. Thank you.